This is Virgil Adams with the personal injury law firm of Adams, Jordan, and Harrington. For over 25 years, our law firm has provided quality, professional legal representation to the people of Macon, Middle Georgia, and the state of Georgia who have been seriously injured. Through our well-earned reputation of caring, we have recovered millions of dollars for our clients and those who have been referred to us by other lawyers who seek our level of expertise. Adams, Jordan, and Harrington, seeking justice for the injured.
When I was in college studying to be a teacher, there was a concept and approach that was used in education that I thought had died. And what that concept was is that when you're teaching somebody or trying to show somebody something, you should take him or her from the known to the unknown. Well, I was reading up on my guest for the day, and it kind of struck me that he, in talking to people, and he's a very successful educator, that an approach he used when addressing a group, rather than talking about strictly academic and educational stuff, he used Star Wars. And he related Star Wars to some ongoing and everyday situation. And I was reminded then that that's kind of like that old principle that my instructor taught me when I was trying to learn to be a teacher, is that one way to really get a person's attention or to educate that person is to begin with something that with which they are familiar, and then take them from that to something with which they are not familiar. So the new superintendent, Dr. Curtis Jones, and I are in agreement as it relates to an approach that can be used to help to educate our children. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham, and I'm more than a little happy today to have with me Dr. Curtis Jones, who's the new superintendent of Bibb County Schools and has hit the ground running and has a plan that we're going to talk to him today. But first of all, everybody in town is happy that you're here. You know, you come with a great record, and all of the reviews and interviews and all other kind of views are very positive. So welcome to Macon.
Thank you very much.
You know, I'm making myself the official welcome committee. But on a more serious note, let's talk a little bit about this community. Let's talk about education. And I think we need to begin with, you know, your concept of this being a culture and how we should address changing it. And I understand that sometimes cultures are a bit difficult, you know, to modify or to change. So address that.
Well, I believe that culture is truthfully a major factor in being able to determine how successful you're going to be. If you think about it, culture is what we do, is what we believe, is what you end up seeing. And that's the result. I read a book once, and it said something like this, though. It says that if you can change what people think, that will change what they do. If you change what they do, then you get a different result. So that culture then is changing what they do. It's about high expectations versus low expectations. And so changing the culture, I think, is something we're going to have to work on. And as I've talked with individuals during this first month that I've been here, I think a lot of people want to see some change. And so I'm very excited about that.
Well, that's absolutely true. And the other thing that I think is interesting as it relates to a couple of things, as it relates to your approach, you know, a lot of people think that the way to address problems is from the top down. But in kind of reading up on, you know, your philosophy on some things, it seems that you're trying to have a meeting in the middle. You're starting with the top, but you're also starting with the bottom in an effort to have that common ground in the middle. Address that.
Something I learned in the military is that if you want to do something, you just can't look at the level where you are. So let me give you an example. If you are planning a military operation you can't look at what the captain's doing. You got to know what the private's doing, because the private is actually implementing what you talked about.
Right.
The rest of it's just conversation. So the captain may tell the sergeant, but the sergeant's going to tell the private. So, and that's what Napoleon did. Napoleon used to go out on the front battle line, and he would ask a soldier, "What are you going to be doing tomorrow?" And then he knew if his orders were being followed through. So what we are attempting to do, and what I'm doing during this first days of my time in Bibb County, is I'm going out to schools and I'm looking at classrooms. I'm looking to see what teachers have on the boards. I'm looking to see how they're interacting with students. I'm looking to see what principals are saying to the teachers and student interactions. Walking inside restrooms to see what's written on the walls. Going into the kitchen, talking to the nutrition workers, talking with custodians. All of that reflects what the expectations are for that building. So I may say I have high expectations. Principals may have an idea about what's happening, but if you don't go out and look, it doesn't happen. Last comment. You have to inspect what you expect.
All right.
And so we're out doing some of that now.
Well, I agree with that, and I think that I would be a little remiss if I didn't give you at least a few, 2-3 minutes to talk a little bit about your background. You mentioned the military,
Okay.
and that's what reminded me, just who is Curtis Jones?
Curtis Jones is Curtis Lee Jones Jr. My dad was a Methodist minister, a CME. He came from Texas with my mom. I was born in 1955 in Grady Hospital, so I'm a Grady baby. My mom was a school teacher. Dad was also a teacher. Went to school in Griffin, Georgia. Graduated from Griffin High, joined the military after 4 years at the United States Military Academy, 20 years in the Army. I should say I married my high school sweetheart.
Oh, wow.
She did something very special too. We were high school classmates. She went to Savannah State for 1 year. Then she transferred to a college up in New York, Manhattanville College, and so we stayed together for those 4 years. Married 3 weeks after college graduation. We now have 3 children. One of my oldest son works for Title Max in Athens. My middle child is a teacher in Walton County, and my daughter is about to be a medical doctor, graduating from the University of Virginia.
Wow.
And after 20 years in the military, retired back to Griffin, Georgia, my wife's hometown. I'm from Barnesville as well, and have been in education now for 18 years.
Wow. Well, congratulations. I noticed also that you had kind of departmentalized, if you please, your expectations as it relates to your plan month by month, as it relates to what you are doing and trying to, and I know it's a big job. And then I personally realized, and everybody else should, the role that education plays in the development and the advancement and the progress of our community. And I know it's a big job, but in looking at, I see you got month by month what you plan to accomplish.
Well, the Board of Education wanted to talk to me about how will I come into the position and how can we try to help guarantee success. And part of that is being deliberate with what it is you intend. Sometimes people say people do things and they're just lucky. Well, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So we planned an entry plan. And the entry plan allows me to do several things. One, it allows me to meet with schools. And so I'm talking to principals, I'm talking with teachers, I'm going to meet with students. I'm going to visit every school and see what's in place. And that's part of what we talked about already. But it's hard for me to make decisions and be able to be fully informed if I haven't done that. But as you know, it's not all about what's happening in schools. You have to be able to go out and talk with the community. So the entry plan also allows me to meet with the business community, social activities and clubs as well. Fortunately, already I've been to 2 churches, and it gets back to what you're talking about. I've been welcomed at both churches so far. I had a student grandmother tell me just this week that her 7th grader, who I met at a school board meeting, said, "You think the superintendent would come to my church?" And so the grandmom emailed me the church, and so I'm going to go visit because, again, the school can't do it alone. But it's going to allow me to become involved in that aspect as well. I'm waiting to meet with high school students and talk to them about their expectations, their experiences. And I think everybody's going to be a part of that. So working with parents, students, the business community, schools, teachers, is going to be great. I had a great time, about an hour and a half, meeting with our teachers of the year for this past year, where they could just, and I asked the principals and the teachers 3 basic questions. What do you want me to know? And after they had time to talk about it, the next question was, what do you expect of me? They had time to talk about it and gave me their answers. And then the third was, now what do you want me to do? And so those questions allow people to have input into what I'm attempting to do. And I hope it gives them a sense of buy-in and a sense of that my success is part of their success. So we're going to be working together.
I mean, it takes more, and there's no such thing as a magic wand.
Correct.
But I think that the community, I know that you've told everybody that they can't expect this great transformation overnight, but you can eat that elephant one bite at a time, and pretty soon you will have it eaten. But specifically, if you can think of any specific project, what would you like to see the community do in order to help you, all the way from parents to pastors to the Chamber of Commerce to the business community, to the gangs? I mean, everybody. What would what would you like to say to the community, because it affects everybody?
It does.
The sheriff, I mean, everybody. The level of education in our community affects everybody, because, and let me say this quickly, a lot of people don't realize this. I used to be on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce, and I had a guy, I was on a committee, and the guy was coming into town looking at Macon to put a plant, and he said what happens a lot of time when people are looking to come into the community, they look at the front page of the newspaper every day.
You're right.
And that reflects on our community. So how can these different groups, individuals, help you to be successful in your endeavor?
Well, I think it's 2 things. The first one is getting students to come to school. I mean, attendance is so important. If you don't show up, you can't learn. And if you're not in the classroom, you can't learn. And so if we're able to get an idea that students need to be in school as much as possible, and let me give you a couple examples. We already know from data that if a student misses 15 days of school, they're going to probably have a 39% chance of graduating. 15 days. It doesn't matter if it's excused absence or unexcused.
Wow.
15 days. But think what that really means. If a child misses just 1 day a month, and then every now and then make it 2, you're at that 15.
That's per year, isn't it?
That's per year.
Yeah.
That's per year.
Right.
The research was done for students who were in 8th grade. And so they looked at students in Georgia who graduated in 2014, and they went back 4 years. And that was what they were able to find. If a student missed 6 days or less, they had an 85% chance of graduating. Now, just think about a couple things. You have the Christmas break, and parents say, you know what, my child doesn't really need to go to school that last day because all they're going to do is watch films. But that's when you pick up social skills. That's when students develop a desire to be with their friends. That day is as important. Sometimes parents will say, you know what, I really don't need my child to go on this field trip. They've been there before. That field trip ties into things that they've learned and makes it important. And so while we may not believe that it's important for students to be there every day, that's just a habit of mind. You need to go to work every day. You can't miss 15 days of work year after year and think you're going to be successful.
Right.
And so I need for them to do that.
Right.
Here's the second thing. The second thing is I would like for them to do what you talked about, which is be more positive. We're going to have some issues in schools, but businesses are going to look to see how we respond to those. And if our response is to put them in the newspaper and to make it seem as if that's what's normal and that is what is accepted, they're not going to want to come. And then our young students will read those and they believe that behavior is accepted.
Right.
We got to change what that idea of acceptance is. We're implementing a program called PBIS, Positive Behavior Interventions and Support. We need to be able to teach students behavior.
Let's talk about that, because I had Terry, the director, I interviewed him. We haven't shown it yet. Talk about what PBIS is. Because I understand you use it in Griffin also.
We did. PBIS is a national framework that basically says we're going to teach you the positive behaviors that we expect. In schools, we will teach you what we want to tell you about math, reading, language arts. Why don't we teach you about behavior? And what we have found is that in some cases, adults in the building have middle class expectations. Some students come with different levels of expectations. We have to tell them what we want them to do. So PBIS says, if you're in our hallway, this is how you conduct yourself. If you're in our office, this is how you conduct yourself. If you're in the classroom, this is what we expect. If you're on the bus yard, this is what we expect. If you're on the bus, this is what we expect. But it's more than that. Once we tell you what we expect, we then train you on it. We then teach you that. And then the positive reinforcement comes in that if you display that behavior, if a teacher sees you doing that, then they give you a reward. And those rewards add up so that at the end of the month or the end of 2 weeks, there's some kind of PBIS store you can go to and you can cash it in.
Oh,
I'll give you an example, and this is one of the things I was talking about earlier. A lot of teachers will like during the month of December to take this rewards and then they'll put a movie on that students can go watch. And so they look forward to being able to watch that movie eating popcorn at school. Some get to wear their pajamas and come to school. Now, some people don't wear pajamas, but they go out and buy them just because now that becomes another benefit of being successful. So PBIS is teaching those behaviors and showing what the positive aspects of it are. And what we believe is if we do that enough, then when they become adults, they learn delayed gratification.
Right.
And if that happens, now they're able to put in place that learning mechanism that we want, so they'll be willing to put in the extra effort for something better later.
Right.
That's PBIS.
Now, is there a way, for the business community? I know you need all the support you can get, but as it relates to the rewards, I've got a business, and maybe, I don't think anybody should break the bank as it relates to trying to help. But oftentimes, a couple of things as it relates to the businesses. Maybe Amstar want to donate so many tickets to the board, and you can give to the students.
Well, a great way of doing that is with our partners in education.
Okay.
The schools could work with their partners in education. The businesses could work with their partners in education, and then give them the tickets or something so they can put it on display. So then students can say, I want to get that, I want to get that, I want to get that.
Right.
Then they display those behaviors, they get recognized, and that's how the
Right.
businesses can help us.
And I also want to ask you about and I don't know how familiar you are with it at this point, about the Adopt a School program. Have all the schools been, I know that there are several organizations, and businesses that really delve into that support of the community by adopting a school to see if there are any needs for that institution may have.
I haven't heard of a specific adopt a school, but my belief is that it may be very, very similar to this idea of being a partner in education.
Right.
So,
that may be the same thing.
Okay. That's what I'm
kind of old school.
Well,
so
okay. Well,
this might have been here,
But I think it's also it needs to be a two-way street. If you become a partner, we need to be able to share with you how you're helping. So I'll give you an example. If you allow your employees to come and read to students during lunchtime, or if you can just have employees come and sit with a student during lunchtime, they get excited about that. I've been in schools and they've been like, who's that guy? He's coming. And when you just sit with a student one time a week, they get excited about it. So if businesses will be able to adopt a school or partner with the school, I think it'll make a big difference in the school's performance.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the graduation rate. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham, interviewing Dr. Curtis Jones, the superintendent, schools at the Bibb County Board of Education. We'll be right back.
This is Virgil Adams with the personal injury law firm of Adams, Jordan, and Harrington. For over 25 years, our law firm has provided quality, professional legal representation to the people of Macon, Middle Georgia, and the state of Georgia who have been seriously injured. Through our well-earned reputation of caring, we have recovered millions of dollars for our clients and those who have been referred to us by other lawyers who seek our level of expertise. Adams, Jordan, and Harrington, seeking justice for the injured.
While I'm thinking about it, I want to talk about it. I want to express to not only the superintendent but the community is that jobs have a lot to do with how a community does. And I think, we're all familiar with that situation in Baltimore. And education has a lot to do with jobs, because too often, I've heard people say that I don't have children in school.
Right.
Well, yes, you do, because all the children in the community, belong to us, because they kind of determine how the community moves forward or backwards. So I'm just making that expression to try to solicit the support of the entire community for this Board of Education and this superintendent and for our young people. It really makes a difference. And if you see some kids, they're supposed to be in school, call the principal. I stopped the other day and asked, I saw a 9-year-old boy. I said, son, shouldn't you be in school? I know they a little rowdy, but I think in a positive manner, we can encourage our young people that it just kind of like, we can't do what the mama did in Baltimore, because I know.
Yeah, I saw that. But it used to be a time, though, everybody cared about the students. And so if you saw something, you asked.
Right.
And that is what you're actually saying. We need to be more of a neighborhood. I also would share this with you, too, though. In school today is the next police chief or the next sheriff.
That's correct.
And so when individuals believe that, I don't have kids in school, what they do have are people who are working now, either in the businesses or in the public service, that needed public education to get to where they are. And we are educating that next generation. To be quite truthful, it's everybody's responsibility. I agree with you wholeheartedly in that.
Right.
I also would tell you we have a college and career academy that we're working on. We're fortunate to get a $3.1 million grant to open it up. We're working now with the technical college to get that up and going, and I'm very excited about that possibility. We have a business education partnership group that is helping us in some ways with that, but also a greater partnership with other businesses where we're able to get interns, where students can go and be able to study during the morning, but then go work in the afternoon as interns, and I'm very excited about. So if I had a request for a call for action, it would be for businesses to come and partner with us and let our students get some real world hands-on experience.
Well, now I'm Alex Habersham, publisher of the Macon, Middle Georgia Black Pages, which is a directory of businesses, and I'm going to encourage,
Thank you.
All of the businesses out there, and I use intern. I can't remember the initials for the program, but I've had some from Northeast. Some of the best graphic designers that I've ever had was Miss Bowman, I think was her name, was in the computer program out at Northeast. So we want to encourage, the businesses, to call the Board of Education. You can call the general number, they'll direct you.
Oh, yes.
To, say, well, I've got this business and I'd like to play an important role in the education of our young people in this community. So I'll take an intern. And then I'm sure that they will get, then they'll give you the opportunity to interview him or her.
Correct.
If you wish, and you can get, I've had some excellent, high school students to assist me in my business. Let's move on to the graduation rate.
Okay.
I know it's important. I want you to talk about, and I know you're fresh on the job. I want you to talk about, where your thoughts are. But in that process, and I stay, as I told you initially, I'm heavy on resources, and I'm heavy on the utilization of resources. So if, in fact, there are resources or suggestions or ideas that you have or that you've thought about, that we can do or that are out in the community that can help us move that graduation rate, up the ladder, then I'm certain that we can twist some arms and get some people interested in doing that.
Okay, two things will help out greatly. One, let me say this. The graduation rate takes 5 years to develop. Students start in 8th grade, and then once they finish 8th grade, get into 9th grade, then 4 years later, that becomes a result. So it's going to take at least 4 years to really make a big impact. But
I'm glad you said that, because if it hadn't jumped by 10% next year, here they go. Well, I thought Dr. Jones, was the magic.
You have to realize that it's a cohort. So they start as soon as students enter 9th grade, and that rate is calculated over 4 years. So it's going to take us a while to get there. But we got to get students who are able to read at a higher level. So there are two things that make that happen. One, they have to have better decision making. Students have to be willing to work hard on their reading skills and that means they got to have better character. So we have schools that are putting in place character education programs to help students with that decision-making process. The Business Education Partnership is working with 2 of our elementary schools to put in place a program called The Leader in Me, one of Stephen Covey's programs.
Okay.
There are going to be some other programs that we're going to work on for character as well. But character education is going to be a place where if we can get students to think better, make better decisions, then the graduation rate will go up. Now, I know people are going to say, that's easy, but truthfully, think about it. Who's been successful who didn't have great character?
Nobody.
Thank you.
Yeah. That is very good. Well, we got just a few minutes left, and since you're the new superintendent, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to just make an expression to the community about, where you see the Board of Education and the approach that you're using generally to improve it, and how the community can help you.
Well, I appreciate that. The Board of Education, I want to publicly thank them for giving me this opportunity to come and be the superintendent for Bibb County. It is truly an honor and a privilege. I want you to know that the board has been working very hard to implement changes and improvements to their governance process, and they are continuing to work in that, and I'm working with them in that effort as well. The Board of Education and I are going to work to try to put in place leadership that you can believe in. And so I'm going to ask that you give us the benefit of the doubt. Give us the opportunity to put in place some changes. Change is hard, and people are not going to like all the decisions that I make. Currently I'm in my honeymoon period. Everybody is happy about what could happen. But once decisions happen, then it's like, wait a minute, now that affects me. But I just guarantee you that I will, not guarantee, I promise you, I will do my best to make decisions that are in the best interest of all our students. Please give me the benefit of the doubt. Give our principals the benefit of the doubt, and also our teachers. Teachers don't come to school to make bad decisions. Teachers don't come to school to harm children. They come because that's where their passion is. We will do what we think is best, and so we ask you to partner with us and give us an opportunity. And from the Board of Education all the way down to our custodians and bus drivers, we're going to do what we can to help educate your child. Please give us that opportunity. Thank you.
And if you got a child, let's talk a little bit about parent-teachers organizations, because I understand that the participation and attendance is kind of ridiculous.
Well,
talk about the importance of that.
PTA organizations, parent-teacher organizations, and associations are very important. We believe strongly in parental involvement. Now, I know sometimes people think schools don't look friendly, and you may think we're putting up barriers. You just need to keep coming because it's a public school. It's your school. So if you're willing to join the PTA or the PTO, if you're willing to participate in fundraisers, if you're willing to come and answer any survey that we ask, and I'm going to tell you, whenever you get the phone call from the school system, don't just look at the number and hang up. Listen to what it is we're trying to share. Because sometimes we do, not sometimes, all the time. It's important information that we think you should have. And so joining that would be great. And also please keep your school councils supported. Thank you.
This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham, having interviewed Dr. Curtis Jones, Superintendent of the Bibb County Board of Education.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.